You have to
Right.
understand how it works in order to leverage it, right?
Yeah.
So
It's a
putting all of
strategy.
these pieces
Yeah.
in, you can create an infrastructure around your wealth. And then you also want to build a dream team around you of different advisors that can support you.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have Dave Wolcott. Dave started his career by serving the country as a captain in the Marine Corps. In 2000, he and his wife brought triplets into the world, which inspired him to challenge traditional financial planning advice. Today, Dave is an author, podcast host, and the founder and CEO of Pantheon Investments, and is more passionate than ever about helping entrepreneurs build wealth by passively investing in superior real estate and alternative assets that provide predictable cash flow, tax efficiency, as well as upside potential as a reliable alternative to the volatility of the stock market. Join us and check out Dave's story today. Dave, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, grateful to be here to connect with you and your audience.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have a conversation with you today, because we're gonna talk about a lot of different things, but we're gonna really talk about like our shared investing philosophies, and you've even written a book on it, so we're gonna get into that as well. And I shared a little bit in the intro with the audience about your background, Dave, but maybe you could share a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. So probably like a lot of the audience out there, I was raised in a middle-class family. I was taught that the recipe for success was to go to school, get good grades, you're going to get a job, and that would equal success, right? So I followed down that path, went to school at George Washington University in DC, and then had the opportunity to serve my country in the Marine Corps. So I did the ROTC program and had a phenomenal time in the Marines, spent 4 years traveling the world, being combat tested in the first Desert Storm, and then also Somalia when all that happened. And I
Yeah,
learned some things, Chris, that they don't really teach you anywhere else in the world, things such as, teamwork, leadership, integrity, right? And then
yeah,
after the Marine Corps, I transitioned into the tech industry. And, that was kind of an exciting transition, exciting time. And, once I got there, I just really struggled because I lost that sense of purpose,
mm,
that sense of mission,
yeah,
right? Once I got into corporate America. And then at the same time, my wife and I had an 18-month-old running around. And then on October 24th, 2000, we literally won the baby lottery and had triplets. So I
wow,
quadrupled the size of my family overnight. And the first thing I did, Chris, was, I was just thinking to myself, I mean, how am I going to provide for financial security, for my family? I mean, I just
yeah,
felt like, this was everything to me. And now you just took the goalpost and moved it like completely a mile down the field.
yeah,
Um, so I went to my financial planner and, he told me the same thing as all of them do, which was, just max out your
save more.
401k. You've got kids. They got these things called 529 plans, that you can optimize your state taxes and, do things like dollar cost averaging and bring your taxes and things like that. So it was right at that point, Chris, that I just, I got so frustrated with that advice. And I knew real ultra wealthy weren't building their wealth as retail investors in the stock market. So it kind of launched me on this, completely obsessive quest to figure out how the 1% are truly building their wealth. And so subsequent to that, I spent the next 20 years and in all kinds of alternative asset classes, everything from single family rentals to multifamily to retail to raw land to oil and gas, lots of different asset classes and learning different strategies of the ultra wealthy. And, fast forward to today and really, we're on a purpose-driven mission to change the way people think about money so that they can create more freedom in their lives, not only freedom of money, but also freedom of purpose, freedom of time, and freedom of relationships.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. It's interesting, if I may kind of go back, you talked about, when you left the Marines and moved into corporate America, you know, losing that purpose.
Yeah.
that purpose. And, I think it's, you've gone from the military to the corporate world and then ultimately to, the world of an entrepreneur and financial freedom. I think, something that isn't talked about that often, Dave, is, when people reach financial freedom, it's not the numbers that's the hardest part. It's it's trying to reshape how you think about yourself, how you're relevant in the world. And maybe you could share a little bit about that. Obviously, we're both fathers, so we have that purpose that we have. But you've recreated this and taken your company as we've tried to do here as well, and try to have a bigger impact.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. I mean, one of my biggest insights was, and again, keep in mind, this is back in 2000. Rich Dad Poor Dad had just come out.
Yeah,
Uh, but when I read Cash Flow Quadrant and I saw that, hey, you've got to be a business owner and you've got to be an investor on the right-hand side of the quadrant, this is the strategy that you got to
yeah,
set up. Now, there certainly wasn't a playbook to, how to do that. But that really planted the seed for me
yeah,
to know that I have to be kind of positioned there. And most entrepreneurs start their first business by things of what they know. They know a certain industry. They have different current relationships, and then you try to transfer that into your existing business. And built several businesses. I built a tech consulting business I ran for 15 years, made a complete exit with that. But what's, truly been really exciting, Chris, and to your point is, just changing the way you think and really creating, the ultimate business around my purpose, and what that is. How can I help other people? Right. This is
yeah,
all built on trying to help other people, learn mistakes that I made, over
right,
20 years of investing because,
yeah.
frankly, we're not taught financial education anywhere.
Nope,
And
yeah,
95% of the education is coming from Wall Street and
yeah,
financial advisors that are really trying to sell you a
yeah.
portfolio of goods. So I've had to look under, rocks, reading tons of books, meeting some amazing people, and really trying to study that and then package that in a way that can create value for people. And I think a concise way to deliver that value is trying to eliminate people's top dangers in their life, seize the top opportunities that they have, and then let them do that in a way that maximizes their unique ability.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. I was just on a podcast actually earlier today, and we were talking about specifically financial literacy for kids. But I pointed out that I got a degree on my wall that says I have an MBA in finance, specifically portfolio management. And even that really did not teach you how to be financially successful as an individual. You learn things like modern portfolio theory and what the Sharpe ratio is and derivatives and all of these different things that are tools in the financial world. But I know you and I have an affinity for, you know, uh, infinite banking or, specifically utilizing, a specific type of life insurance contract. And you've actually, and I also like that you also think in frameworks like I do. And you've actually put together a framework in your book that walks individuals through the steps that they can use to become financially successful. So I'd love for you to kind of get into that. Maybe we can walk through those steps today on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris.
Yeah,
So really it all starts with a vision,
yeah,
because if you don't have a target, you're going to miss every time, right?
yeah.
And sadly, in this day and age, we're all being bombarded by information everywhere and
So
being
much.
reactive in life. But if you can just step away, with your spouse and go, somewhere in nature and spend some deep thinking time, really hone in on your vision and create a vision statement for yourself. I mean, we
Yeah.
all do them for companies, but when's the last time you did one for yourself, right? So
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 good.
getting crystal
Yeah.
clear clarity on your vision statement is so powerful, because that's what's going to get you to bust through doors. It's going to get you to, become resilient, to become resourceful, and those things. So we really start everything with a vision statement, and then we move into phase one, which is really, it's all about you, Chris, right? Because it starts with your mindset and investing in yourself, changing the paradigm to invest in yourself as the number one greatest asset. So anytime I invest in my health, my education, my relationships, my family, my business, all of these things, I get a bigger return than I could ever get on any other type of investment, right? So invest in yourself and then focusing on having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset where you're always asking questions and you're seeking, more information and always learning.
I think that's a great point. And you brought up Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, and great book from a philosophy perspective. But he really doesn't go into like, what do you actually do? I'll never forget that. It's like, okay, now you got to go kind of figure it out for yourself, and that's kind of the magic of the book, and also the brand. And he's obviously written many books after that. We're big proponents here as well of having that vision of what you want and using it, being able to use it as a filter. So when you have those big life decisions, for example, I had the opportunity to move into a VP role with the company, and I pulled out my vision, and I was like, you know what? This is my ego that's excited about this. It had nothing to do with what was in my vision, what I wanted for my family. It can be very clarifying. So if you're listening today and you don't have a vision statement, like Dave said, highly encourage you to put that together and do that. But I want to touch on Robert Kiyosaki again, Dave. One of the things that he said is, don't take a job for what it'll pay you. Take a job for how much more valuable it will make you. And you said that's another way of investing in yourself. So if you're starting out, if you're coming out of college and you're looking for an entry level job, pick a job that can give you those skill sets. Maybe it's a sales skill. Sales jobs are often, not the highest paying jobs as other entry level jobs, but it gives you a skill set that can earn you millions of dollars in multiple different things, as we're all doing. But then taking it to the other end of the spectrum, say you're an investor and you are looking at an investment, invest the time in researching the operator, but also the strategy and understanding how to read the financials so that you can understand, even not just the strategy, but also the inner workings behind that.
Chris, that's a perfect dovetail into phase 2 of the strategy.
We didn't rehearse this for the record, right?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly teed up there. But we really have a formula that I think people should think about in terms of your net worth. So your net worth should equal your financial IQ plus your mindset IQ plus your physical capital plus your relationship capital. So when you think of all of those different dimensions, right, you can really expand your wealth. So just think from a relationship standpoint, you could be one relationship away from creating a new business opportunity with someone that 100x's your wealth.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Dave Milet, his new book, right? Or Ed Milet. Sorry, Ed Milet. Yeah. Power of one more. It's amazing. Just one more.
Or think about it. It also goes in reverse, right? If, like Jim Rohn says, you're the product of the 5 people that you're spending your time with. So if those relationships are taking you away from your vision and away from your goals, right, you're actually going to digress. So that's on the relationship side. In terms of physical capital, you and I share this as well. We're just such strong advocates around health, fitness, and, it means everything, right? Because you could have, if you have your health, you could have 1,000 dreams, but if you don't have your health, you only have one, right? Yeah. So always investing in your health will definitely bring, 10x energy to what your business, your relationships, your life, and the things that you're doing. So that's super important. And then, you also talked about, getting smarter, right? On becoming a better investor. So improving your financial IQ, understanding your own investor DNA, what that looks like, understanding different investment, profiles and different things, different asset classes, all of these kinds of things. I mean, this is one example, for instance. So one of the funds we do is oil and gas investing, right? And it's 100% tax deductible against your active income, right? Yeah. A lot of people just don't even realize that, right?
Yeah.
So, improving on your financial IQ can give you massive gains, right? That's why
Absolutely.
I ended up paying 4% in taxes last year. So,
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's, that's the thing. A lot of people, working with coaching clients over the years, again, I love it. We start with their vision, their 3-year vision. But then we move into when we formulate goals, health is number one, because like you said, I mean, health affects everything. And not only is that all you're going to be focused on if you don't have it, but if you have good health, life is an energy game. So if you have more energy to give, you can produce in every area at a much higher level, including you know, the financial arena. But I think a lot of people get excited as they go through, Dave, and they look at the investments and they're like, oh, what am I getting? What's my return on my investment? They skip over things like the legal structure, the the tax perspective, like what are the tax impacts of that investment? Or, I tell people, hey, you're better off if you can save $1 on your taxes, that's going to be a better return than what you're going to get by putting $1 into an investment. Unless you're Dave Wolcott, you're only saving 4%, right? So,
well, think about it, right, Chris? Like
yeah,
$1,000 of Tesla stock
yeah,
is worth $1,000, right, of
right,
stock. You're
yeah,
only hoping for one thing,
yeah,
which is for it to increase in
yeah,
value.
yeah,
But the way the ultra wealthy think is to think about everything in multiples,
right.
and start to try to play 3-dimensional chess, right, with all these different perspectives.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where having an understanding, like you said, of who you are as an investor, what your personal financial landscape is, and then what ultimately your financial goals are makes a lot of sense. I do want to talk about how do you weave in life insurance in these contracts like we've talked about? Because for me,
Yeah.
we already jumped ahead to the
Yeah.
investments and those sorts of things. For me, the financial base of our pyramid is made up of our life insurance policies.
So, Chris, promise everyone we did not rehearse this, but this is literally phase 3, Chris, of the holistic wealth strategy.
I was like,
Okay,
what
so
could phase 3 be?
you,
Maybe we could figure this out. But
you're
yeah, this is good. We're vibing for sure.
you're unpacking this well. So,
Are you a high income business owner or professional earning 200,000, 300,000 or even more a year, but still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? Are you comfortable working until you're 65 or 70 to retire? Or do you want to achieve financial independence and live life on your own terms? You could join myself and Matt Ford and learn how we both became financially independent in our early 30s. We will teach you how to make, keep, and grow your money, teaching you strategies to maximize your earnings, keep your income that you've earned through tax strategy and legal structures, and ultimately teach you how to grow it by determining your personal investing strategy, as well as teach you how to analyze investments so you can grow your passive income to the point to live life on your own terms. Our coaching clients reliably do this in 7 years or less. To learn more, check out our coaching program at nextlevelincome.com/coaching. That's nextlevelincome.com/coaching.
so think
Yeah.
about it, right? We're all always trying to multiply our wealth and grow our wealth. That's what
Right.
we think about like all the time. That's the exciting part. But you also have to think about protecting your wealth, right?
Yes.
Things like,
Yep.
lawsuits, health issues, all these different things, right? So one thing that's super important, and we created an entire phase around this, which is creating an infrastructure around your wealth, right?
Yes.
And one of those things being, using a properly structured whole life insurance policy, which I know your audience is very familiar with. But again, going back to that multiplier example, we love to implement this. And by the way, I mean, all of the ultra high net worth, the family offices that we spend time with, this is a cornerstone to their strategy. They've been doing this for
Absolutely.
years, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and they're past, what does it mean? How does it work, right? They've been leveraging it very well, and you get a multiplier. It's not just about the return that you're getting on it. It's the access to capital. It's the fact that it's creditor protected in life insurance. It's the fact
Private.
that you can create a reverse income stream, right, in later years. It's the fact that you can, not outlive your money, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm planning to live to 146. So, I need income in some of those later years, right? So setting that up is just so important. And especially as we're talking, right? It's January 2024, and there could be more uncertainty in the world. We've got an election year coming up, so many different geopolitical events out there. So why not create some certainty in your life, right, with predictable cash flow and also having a liquidity strategy? So the ultra wealthy have 3 years of capital, of liquid capital that they can go through, so they can manage through any cycle.
Yep.
And most of it is positioned in, things like whole life insurance. So,
Yep.
we're a huge fan of this. I've been using this with my wife. I've had it set up with my kids. And I think it's something that most people actually miss in their portfolios, right?
Yeah.
But it should be very foundational, no matter what age you're at. It's something to definitely take advantage of.
Yeah, and I know some listeners are probably rolling their eyes because they're like, again, this is like coming
Yeah.
up. But I'm a huge proponent of it. We've been doing it for 14 years now. Since we found out my wife was pregnant with our first son. It took me years to figure out how to really optimize these. But there's a few things, and I could play devil's advocate, Dave. I just heard this here actually this week, whereas, oh, that's not a great investment. And I think that's one of the flaws that a lot of people or I see when investors look at this. Life insurance is a tool. If we talk about an investment, one thing we don't say is guaranteed, right? I actually get a guaranteed return in my insurance policies, a guaranteed return, like you were saying, like that's as secure as it gets. One thing that really surprised me when we were doing our estate plan the first time, we sat down with our attorney, and he said our net worth out loud, and it was 4 times what I thought it was, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "What? Where'd you get that?" And he pointed to our life insurance policies, and he counted those in our net worth. And now most people, I would say, don't count, the amount of their face value of their policies and their net worth. But the way he was looking at it was from an estate perspective. And that is one thing, Dave, that I think the ultra wealthy, as you brought up now a couple of times, the 1%ers, or even the 0.1%ers, really think differently. They think about their wealth as a multi-generational process. And when I talk to novice investors, I won't forget this conversation. I was talking to an investor. He goes, I discussed this strategy with my investing group, Chris, and we all decided it didn't make sense, and it really wasn't a great investment. I said, well, let's address those things. I said, but let me ask you something. I said, is anybody in your investing club or group financially independent? He said, no. I said, okay. Is anyone in your investing club worth more than 7 figures, eight or 9 figures? He said, no. I said, you got to get around a different group of people. I said, you're taking advice from people that, are not truly rich. And, if you're thinking, I said, I would actually argue that an investing strategy where you only have term life insurance, where you're not taking care of the next generation or setting your family up for ultimate financial success, is a selfish strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And those are really, Chris, some additional layers around this
Yeah.
infrastructure component. So again, your audience is familiar with the infinite banking, but this is the time to also focus on estate planning, asset protection, also having a proactive tax strategy. I've fired 5 CPA firms over the years and growing many businesses. I spent more than I have wanted to on a huge amount of taxes until I finally, found the right firm that understood my strategy. We built a strategy together, which involves so many different dimensions. And I also spent time learning how it works, just like infinite banking. It's not a product that you just plug in. You have to understand how it works in order to leverage it, right? So putting all of these pieces in, you can create an infrastructure around your wealth. And then you also want to build a dream team around you of different advisors that can support you.
I love that. I love that. We got a few more minutes before we wrap up. We're correct me if I'm wrong. We're 3 steps into your 5-step framework. Is that right?
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
So great question. So really in phase four, we
Yeah.
talk about asset repositioning because a lot of people will say, okay, maybe I'm tracking here. This kind of makes sense, but I don't know where to
Yeah.
start, or people don't have liquidity to, go do
Yeah.
that first investment and things like that. So what I do is start to actually look at your existing portfolio.
Hmm.
And probably about 12 years ago, I actually took my 401k and
Hmm.
exited it, paid the taxes,
Yeah.
and paid the penalty on, very unpopular type decision. But we've actually built out a whole 401k exit calculator. And it's fascinating,
Hmm.
Chris, that,
Cool.
with 100K, with take out the taxes, take
Mhm.
out the penalty, you then get a net investable 55K, which if put them into some of the assets that we're talking about, such as
Yeah.
multifamily and alternatives and things like that. If you compound that out for 20 years, you can be over 2 million, versus if you keep that in at a 7% rate of return, it's just over 250K. And then it's still subject to tax, right?
Yeah,
So
and that
do the
doesn't even
math, right?
count the I mean, and you also have to deal with all the restrictions that you have in a
Yeah.
qualified plan. I know one of the masterminds that we both participate in, one of the first questions that was asked in when we all met was, if you had $100,000 to invest and you put it into a qualified plan, and then you didn't pay tax, and then it grew for 20 years, and then you paid tax at the end, 25% at the beginning or 25% at the end. Would you have more money if you paid tax in the beginning and invested at the same rate, or more money if you didn't pay tax in the beginning, let it grow, and then pay tax at the end? And so many people were surprised that the answer is there's no difference. So the thought process is that if you're putting money into a 401k, because people are listening to you, Dave, saying, why would you take it out? The thing is, if you have money in a 401k, because I've done the same thing, by the way, if you're listening for the audience, so we're on the same page, but you're making a bet that you're either going to pay less tax in the future because your income is going to go down, which I don't love the thought of that, or the second thought is that the government's going to lower tax rates. And mathematically, that's impossible. So I would argue if you're putting money into a qualified plan, you're making a bet that one of those two things are going to happen. You're going to make a lot less money, or the government's going to lower tax rates. Personally, I don't I don't think the government's lowering tax rates, and I don't think I'm going to make less money.
Well, and Chris, do you know where this comes from, right? This is coming from Wall Street, right, and the government, who
Yeah,
want you to invest in your
yeah,
401k, and that's why there's trillions, in all of
mhm,
these different types of
yeah,
vehicles,
yeah,
right? But would you rather, it's very simply put, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest?
yeah. Yeah, there you go. And would you rather the government get its hands on that harvest, or would you rather it's kept in a place that, like we were talking about before, is creditor protected, private, and is none of anyone else's business?
Exactly.
Um, so, if an investor walks through these first 4 phases, they're going to put themselves in a vastly better position. But there's still one more phase to come after that, that you walk people through. Dave, what is that?
Yeah, the last one, Chris, this is the fun one. It's all about building massive passive income
Yeah,
and creating multiple passive income streams. And we like to, help our clients with the way we're thinking about it is creating 100-year portfolio that's
love it.
recession resistant. We're investing in, key asset classes such as real estate, energy, private credit, that are all focused on, have strong macroeconomic fundamentals to them. They have different return profiles. They're investing in different markets, different operators, things like that.
Yeah,
So really starting to build that profile. And again, it's all kind of tied to your vision statement. Whereas,
yeah,
maybe you're looking to beef up your cash flow in a case, right? Depending on how old you are, or, you may be younger and you can invest in, higher appreciating, type assets and things like that. So it's really trying to create that ideal mix of a portfolio and then having diversification there. So you're never caught out, right? You don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that term, massive passive cash flow. And, as you mentioned earlier, what that ultimately leads to is the freedom to live your best life, the freedom to spend more time with your kids, the freedom to focus on your health, the freedom and I love that you said this, to do what God put you on this earth to do, what your inherent gifts are. And I truly believe that if people have financial freedom, if they have the independence to do those things, that the world's going to be a better place.
Absolutely, Chris.
Yeah. And you've put all this in a book. I actually got your website pulled up right here, Dave. If people want to learn more about what you do, about Pantheon investments, or want to get a copy of your book, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way is just go to holisticwealthstrategy.com and listeners can actually get a free copy of the book right there.
Beautiful. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes here so you can check it out if you're listening today. Dave, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we can connect here for a bike ride this time of the year. Maybe I'll have to join you down in Florida, but maybe you can come up to North Carolina and ride in the hills with me sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Look forward to it. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for being on and sharing all this with our audience today.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.